Welcome to Living Recovery. My name is Travis Whitaker, and I want to thank my special guest here. Brad is a friend of mine, so thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Wanted to create a show that talks about people that have suffered with addiction and have found their way out into recovery, and to show recovery is possible. I had my own addiction for 12 years. I've been in recovery for almost 12 years. So, the goal is to show that we overcome this, we get our families back, we can get a career going, we can be a positive role models in society. And I've been surrounded by not only mental health, but addiction probably my entire life. And I love having guests who have been down that road, sharing part of your journey with us. And that's why we created this show. So Brad, thank you again. Appreciate you joining us today. So let's talk about, when did substance abuse or addiction start in your life?
Well, I was actually a little bit later on in life. I was about 18 years old. But yeah, to understand why I started, you kind of have to go back to like the beginning for me. I grew up in a typical LDS family in Southern California, had my childhood down there. And I was born with actually a rare genetic disease, and it mainly affects the kidneys.
Okay.
And I'm just going to glaze over that because that could be a whole other hour topic. But it does run in the family, and me and one of my older siblings actually have it. So 2 out of 7 kids. And so growing up, I kind of watched my brother, kind of knew what to expect. And as a kid in California, it didn't really affect me much on that aspect. I just always knew how to go to the doctor every 6 months or so and take these medications just to help me with my health. And but at a very young age, I always felt indifferent to other kids because of this health issue. And so I just remember feeling that, not feeling like enough for a lot of time.
Did the condition, take away from you being able to go out and play and do all these other things that kids could do?
No, and my parents never held me back from doing anything I wanted to. Certain contact sports, I probably held myself back more than anything.
Right.
But yeah, they were never one saying you can't do that because of your health problems.
Right.
But and I enjoyed my childhood in Southern California and growing up religious.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed growing up LDS as a kid. And I feel like still to this day it gave me a good foundation on my belief system. And we moved to Utah. My dad had retired from LAPD, and he got a job at LDS Church Security.
Okay.
And so we moved to Utah, and it was a little bit of a culture shock for me.
Moved from California to Utah?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. And having every neighbor of mine being of the same religious background, I wasn't really used to.
Right.
And certain things just that I noticed really early on that were different just with the school district. In California, I had meds I had to take during the day, and I always had to go to the nurse's office. I had extra meds at the nurse's office at school. And the school district I went to here in Utah, they didn't do that. They actually had you carry them on you, which thinking back on this, I hope they don't still do this,
right?
Considering the issues we've been dealing with the last, how many years. And so being in junior high and already being in that awkward stage in life and trying to hide taking these medications so I don't have to explain it every day to my peers.
Well, moving here, also having to build new friends, leaving everything behind. So that's a tough age to do all that.
And so eventually I started forgetting and then also purposely not taking my meds in the middle of the day.
Right.
And so probably led up to a premature having to have a kidney transplant. My first one I had I don't remember what year it was, but it was 4 days after my 17th birthday. So it was a while back. And that one, I was actually a match with my mother. And so I was able to get that one. And I got really sick right after that.
Now, did that happen because you stopped taking your meds?
Yeah.
So you had to have the kidney?
Probably. Okay. I probably eventually would have still had to have one because of the health problem I have. But due to missing medications, probably prematurely made it so I had to get a kidney transplant earlier on instead of later on in life because seeing they found out I had the issue before I was even born. Yeah. And so actually to talk about pain meds and stuff, in the hospital they were giving me Loratab.
Oh yeah.
And Loratab for me, for some reason, it made me sick a lot. And where they put new kidneys in is actually lower abdomen. And so you sneeze, you laugh,
Oh.
you cough, like you're flexing the stomach muscles, and it doesn't feel very well.
Right.
Good. So, at 17, I actually stopped taking the pain meds in the hospital, and so addiction didn't really grab a hold of me just yet at that age. But yeah, that kidney only lasted for about a year and a half.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's at the very beginning, I had some issues. I couldn't keep any food down, and they actually ended up. I got down to like 106 pounds, I think.
Oh, wow.
And I think my normal weight in high school was like 130, so I lost quite a bit of weight.
Yeah.
And they actually got to the point they actually put a feeding tube in, and telling me I want to get sick and I want to throw it up initially. Right. And they that night they put it in. Actually, I did just that, and so here it is in my nose, out my mouth. And I had my mom called the neighbor who was a nurse. She comes over and she's like, I don't know what to do, so I just told her to cut it, and I just yanked it out.
Oh my gosh.
And for some miraculous reason, I actually started getting better, and then my mom's kidneys started taking hold, and it worked for a while.
Yeah.
And just going back to the age thing, with any kind of organ transplant, health issues like that, you need to be very diligent about checkups with doctors and lab work. And being a high school student, I wasn't very good at that. And they probably would have caught some rejection earlier on enough, but somehow I missed it, and it stopped working and failing on me about a year and a half. And right around that same time, my neighborhood in Highland, Utah, had kind of expanded and gotten bigger. And there's these two friends of mine that moved in, and they're from California, just like me. And so I bonded with them really quickly, and they had already messed around with drugs. And I'm like 18 at this point, and having my health issues start declining on me again.
Are you a senior or have you graduated?
This was out of high school. My sophomore year, I was on dialysis. Okay. And then normal year was junior year, and then senior year I went only about half, and then my health started declining.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so this is right before, summer before senior year, so like 05, and there was one Sunday evening they just invited me to come over and hang out, and they were smoking weed, and it wasn't like a peer pressure thing. They were just like, hey, it's here if you want to try it.
Right.
And that initial hit, like, all my worries just dissipated.
Just felt better.
Yeah, and just
felt better about being you.
Yeah, and I just accepted everything, and all my worries about life and my health issues were gone.
Isn't that interesting? Because that's every story we tell. That's like the first thing. Yeah. And it wasn't Lortab with you, see, but it was opioids with me. I'd never even tried marijuana.
Really?
So I felt that when I had my first Lortab and my Percocet, but for you, it's marijuana. Yeah. And the goal, the common denominator there is we just felt like everything was fine. Yeah. Like there was no worries in the world. So you're over at the house, you try marijuana, you feel better.
That was the initial first thing I tried.
Yeah.
And I started having to get certain surgeries for going back on dialysis, and it was, and that's where my addiction to opiates started. Was initially those. I like to say my drug dealer wasn't always up in the city. He was also the friend down the street, who's also a guy with a degree that wrote in little notepads for me.
Right. So, but you said it wasn't Lortab made you sick. So what was the first one?
It was Percocet.
Percocet.
Yeah, it was. And I started with that, and I found out that there's other ways you can abuse it in order to just swallowing a pill. And I found out people like those, so they'll buy them. And so I fell in the whole lifestyle of it. And I wasn't just addicted to the drug. I was addicted to that whole lifestyle. And for me, it was just my source of also having people like me and wanting to be around, because they're always around. And I got re-upped on my prescriptions, or I had cash, or the women were around too at the same time. Right. But back then, when all that stuff was gone, they were nowhere to be found. My so-called friends were gone. Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more of Brad's story.
I am a business owner.
I am a mother, a doctor.
I am a student athlete.
A lawyer.
I'm a police officer.
I'm your neighbor.
I needed meth.
opioids.
I needed coke.
I needed alcohol.
I needed opioids. I needed heroin.
I needed help.
Maple Mountain Recovery is here to help you with your healing and recovery. Call 801-499-9316 or visit us online at maplemountainrecovery.com. Hi, welcome back to Living Recovery. My name is Travis Whitaker. And also, just so you know, if you want to hear more of my story, you can go to livingrecoveryinterventions.com. And I want to thank our sponsors, Living Recovery and also Maple Mountain Recovery. Brad, thank you again so much for joining us. So Percocet is your first drug that you're just getting into. I mean, I know you tried the marijuana, but the Percocet was what kind of just that grasp of welcome to addiction, and then the lifestyle. Yeah. So tell me, what started, or what did that road look like for you when that all started?
So this second route in life of being on dialysis, and I like to call it my years of hell, because here I was, this young adult going to this dialysis unit every other day, 3 times a week, and everyone else except one girl. But she was only there for 3 months, and then got a transplant. And I'd already lived full lives. And I'm just I felt stuck. I'm watching my friends, go on LDS missions or getting married, starting families, going to college, starting their careers. And I just felt stuck. And my escape was my pain meds.
How old are you at this time?
I was 19 years old.
So you're just a year really into that lifestyle and that drug addiction.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was my escape, and I would go to certain pharmacies and get certain pain meds for them, and then I found other pain meds that I could find on the street. Yeah. Oxycontin. And
that was that's I think what set me over the top.
Yeah. And
such a powerful drug.
That was a whole other experience when I did that one.
Yeah.
And
because it's got that long lasting effect. And the interesting thing is that, so I was prescribed Percocet Loratab for my back problems, and then I think 95 or 96 those weren't just doing the job. And I go in and see my doctor, and I'm like, I'm just still in so much pain because my L4 L5 is fractured. And this is how he says it to me. There's this amazing drug that's out on the market. It was created for cancer patients, but I think you'll take less opioids with a longer, the time release. And he prescribed the 40 Oxycontins for me, and that's when I felt like I had arrived, like you had said. Yeah. So tell me about your experiences with the Oxycontin and what that did.
And right around when I started in that, because, on the street, they're pretty pricey.
Yeah, yeah.
And I started getting Social Security income, because I started not being able to work regularly. And that first check, they back pay you. I think my first check was over $3,000.
Oh, wow.
And where did all that money go? But that was right when I got into the Oxycontin, so I had all this money I could just throw at my addiction, and then a little bit of money here and there. And through the 4 years I was on this stint of dialysis, they wouldn't put me on a list for a long time because I was still smoking cigarettes. For me, cigarettes go hand in hand with my opiates.
Right.
So I guess that nicotine really intensifies the high. But and I had been introduced to 12-step programs because of getting in trouble. Luckily, I was only ever in trouble with the law with misdemeanors, marijuana.
Yeah.
And they never really got me for anything else. And so I'm really grateful for that. But I had this really entitlement attitude. I always
doesn't that kind of come along with it?
Oh yeah,
addiction, because it's about us, right?
And I always looked at it well, if they arrest me, I'm on dialysis. They're not going to throw me in jail. When I look back now, if I would have been caught for some of the things, they would have thrown me up in the pen at the mouth of the canyon. Point of the mountain, excuse me. And they would have done dialysis just fine there. But I'm grateful for that. But that was my outlook and attitude, and I never took accountability for anything.
No.
My friend told me to take a right instead of a left. The cop was a dick. Never accepted anything that I was doing.
How long did your addiction go on for? And did you ever lead to heroin?
Yeah, about the last year.
Year.
It was probably 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And and actually led up to that. So I had my last transplant in September 22nd of 2010.
Okay.
And I did not, I remember that day, it was like 4 p.m. and my mom comes down and just ecstatic because the University of Utah called her. So her son is getting another chance at life.
Yeah.
She got the call for a kidney. And I didn't feel that at all. I had gotten to the point in my life that I knew I was going to either die from my OD or my health issues or a combination of both. And I like.
Well, you're doing all these drugs and you're on dialysis. I mean, that's scary.
Yes.
To be here, sitting here talking to me, I mean, is a miracle.
Right.
It really is.
And I kind of looked at it like, and I was welcoming and okay with the fact I wasn't going to see age 30. And this is like early 20s.
Right.
And and then that day my mom, so she comes down and tells me this, and so I'm starting to get ready. But I didn't feel that at all, like, because the night before I was doing what I do best. And I was actually smoking cigarettes, what I wasn't supposed to be doing. I had told them I had quit. And so that was the 21st of September of 2010. And the next day I actually had the transplant. And the pain meds in the hospital weren't doing crap.
Well, because you build up this,
had such a high tolerance
and you're taking OxyContin.
And my mom was just like looking at me like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, she's like, I've never seen you like in this much pain. Yeah. And you think that would have ended it, and I would have stopped.
Yeah.
Because I got this new chance at life.
Right.
No, and it was like, how I did my meds, I didn't just swallow them, I do other things. And so it was like 2 weeks after my transplant, I'm sitting at home, I have my buddy next to me. He's more into like the street opiates, the heroin. And I hadn't quite got to that point yet. And we're sitting there and I'm getting my stuff prepped, my little bit of uppers and my downers. And I look over and his lips have turned blue on me. And this is like 2 weeks after my transplant. I can't do much.
Right.
I have this big incision in my stomach. And I'm here in my parents' basement in my bedroom. And I didn't know what to do because I know how to do CPR, but I can't lift him.
Right. Yeah.
And so I had no choice. I had to go yell for my mom, even though I didn't want to. And my mother saved my buddy's life. Like, she didn't know how to do CPR, but the lady on the phone on 911 walked her through it.
Yeah.
And if she didn't do what she did, he wouldn't be alive today and have his kids that he has now. And you think being through that experience would have stopped someone like me.
We all think that.
Right when the ambulance left, and right after the report was filled out, and the cops had left, I went down there and I do what I do to suppress that emotion I was feeling. And I remember it got to a point that I had led to going to an outpatient program. My mom had found some of my paraphernalia and was just like, you need help. And this is my first time going to an outpatient program, not court ordered being there. And it was in Provo, and I went like twice a week.
Yeah.
Problem for me, I wasn't clean. For some reason, the whole month I went there, they never UA'd me, but I was like just abusing everything. And for me, like, I knew I needed to change, but I still had access to the outside world. I still had my old friends there and all that. And yeah, so
well, let's do this. Let's take a break real quick, and then we're going to come back. We're going to finish talking about your story, and then we're going to talk about the beautiful gift of recovery. We'll be right back.
I am a business owner.
I am a mother, a doctor.
I am a student athlete.
A lawyer.
I'm a police officer.
I'm your neighbor.
I needed meth.
Opioids.
I needed coke.
I needed alcohol.
I needed opioids. I needed heroin.
I needed help.
Maple Mountain Recovery is here to help you with your healing and recovery. Call 801-499-9316 or visit us online at maplemountainrecovery.com. Hi, welcome back to Living Recovery and my special guest, Brad. Brad, again, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course.
Let's talk about the gift of recovery.
Yeah. So where I was just going into is kind of where my recovery journey started. Initially started going to that IOP program, And like I said, I was using the whole month I was there.
And was this your after your friend goes, and his lips are blue, is this something you're just thinking about that you maybe need to get some help? Was this all your idea, or did family give it to you?
It was a little bit after. This is probably like 10 months down the road after that. So this is in 2011. And, and I didn't know how to stay clean with having that access to and I didn't know how to change anything. Going to 2 meetings a week, I didn't know. And so eventually I got information for an inpatient treatment center from that counselor. And we went and took a tour and walked around, and there was the admissions guy. You actually know him. But he, he's very trying to get me to stay and just check in that day.
Just do it right now. Yeah.
I had some money coming the next week.
Oh.
And so I was like, which honestly I can look back and I'm grateful I got that little binge out of my system. And so I checked in to that facility in September 13th of 2011, and my clean date's the 14th because everyone goes in high, right?
Yeah.
But and there were certain things I heard going into treatment. I initially signed up for 60 days, and they said you have to change one thing, and that's everything. Yeah. And they started saying things like spirituality. Yeah. And I was very turned off to that at first because I thought spirituality and religion was the same thing, and it wasn't until going through treatment I realized they're two separate things. Right. And going through treatment was definitely an experience for me. There was they do this family process group, and me and my dad actually did this. And so here's a retired police officer,
LAPD,
yeah,
right?
And then there's me, his son, going towards recovery, yeah, addict, and I'm sitting there having to tell him certain things I had pawned of his, and just confessing that to him, and then committing to him I would stay in treatment as long as it took, do sober living and do as long as that takes. Initially, right after I commit all these things to him, I'm like, oh crap, what did I just do? But it was the first time I ever, in a long time, I was actually a man of my word and actually fulfilled all that. And
your dad probably knew.
Yeah.
I mean, know what I mean? The things we're pawning. I mean, we think we're so secretive.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. And because I had my wife convinced that she was going crazy, really, because I was so good at my lies. I was so good at manipulating, making you think that this isn't really happening. And I did that too. I had to go in and talk about, I pawned, our wedding rings. I stole my son's birthday money. Pawned the TV. I had title loans on the cars, and I lied about everything. So I'm sure Dad was there to give you a hug.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah, he was definitely he responded to that a lot better than I expected. And so, going into the sober living, I graduated on my 106th day, and then I did sober living. And sober living was definitely an experience. Yeah. It taught me a lot. Yeah. For 7 months I was there, I had one roommate not relapse on me. And so that very beginning, it was almost like a jealousy feeling. I had roommates relapse. Yeah. Because you're like, well, why did they get to use and I can't? This is bull crap. And but then it kind of turns into almost, empathy for them. Yeah. Because you get that stability under yourself. And earlier on I got myself a sponsor in a 12-step program, and I got involved with that program. And the service aspect was a big part of it. Yeah. At first it was just something small. At my meeting I would go to on Monday nights, I would just do the announcements on upcoming activities in the fellowship. And at first I didn't want to do that because my meeting I go to on Monday nights, it can get up to 90, 120 people sometimes. Yeah. And I did that commitment for, almost 2 years. Good for you. And it got me to a meeting every Monday night, though. and I'm grateful for that because it gave me that structure. And that led into being able to take those type of meetings into facilities that can't go out to them, like Utah County Jail. Right. And you know, going through the years, like one big thing, hard thing for me was stability with work. I had such a gap in my work history. It was hard to get a job. And so I had to go through all these temp agencies.
Yeah.
And then eventually I humbled myself to go work at Desert Industries. And right around that time, I also went to culinary school. And I had talked to my old counselor, who was a supervisor over techs at a facility I went to as a client. And he started me off small as like just one 5-hour shift working as a tech on Tuesday nights. And that was because initially when I first got clean, I didn't want to work in the recovery industry. I just saw how much crap they had to deal with. And I really early on fell in love with it. And now today I still work in the field.
And you're a chef.
Yeah.
He's a chef in the
I
field.
graduated the program at culinary school. And one thing I love about it the most, I'm not just cooking. I get to work with these individuals and watch their lives change. And I don't think I'll do very good about just working in a restaurant cooking for customers.
Right.
Because for me, it's where I work. It's not just a job. You know, it's more of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
And I like to say I enjoy cooking, but I love working with the clients. Yeah.
So September 14th, how many years are you sober now?
Oh, 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah, thanks,
Congratulations,
man.
man. You know, it just shows that we can overcome anything that's out there that's meant to destroy us. Brad's been through a lot in his life. You know, the 2 surgeries, opioids, you know, it just moving from California to here, you know, and 9 years sober, working in the industry, cooking amazing food for clients, helping their nutrition. You know, there's nothing better. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. Thank you again to sponsors Living Recovery Interventions and Maple Mountain Recovery. Thank you, Brad, for joining us. You guys all have a nice night.